So, back to our show.
Oliver Kimball.
Some people are miles away.
He's a genius. Prodigy.
The majority of them, because of the way the show is staged, are at the front. But we want to stop that peaky nature. It's very peaky. See how you've got all these areas of quietness in between and these massive peaks where just because the show is very staccato, very sort of, very stabby. So what we can do is to select the entire wave, which was selected, but we'll select it again. And we're going to compress it. And what we're actually going to use is a compressor on here in the amplitude section, dynamics processing. Okay, now this is a slightly different representation, but actually it's exactly the same as the tools on there. So you've got decibels along there for your threshold, and you've got decibels along there for your ratio, and decibels along there for your threshold. So actually we can vary the knee. This point here where it starts to compress is referred to as the knee. So you've got your volume line all the way across there, and we can start to apply compression. So when the sound gets to that volume, it's going to be compressed increasingly by this much. The variation from that line, from the original line to this line, is the amount of compression you're holding, you're using. So, preview.
Oliver Kimball.
Let's.
Just can't take it anymore. All he wants is a normal life, and so he finds the highest place he can and he climbs.
So, that's really, really harsh.
And he climbs.
But now nothing is going above that point. It's really that angle there, the angle here shows us just how hard that knee is and just how much compression, but just how high the ratio is. So actually what we're doing now, we've got really hard knee compression, really, it's going, when I get to that tipping point where I'm too loud, I'm going to squeeze the hell out of it, really compress it down. And that's what we're doing here. So at the moment, here the voices have gone really thin, but the background noise is pumping, is coming out really loud in the gaps. And that's because as soon as there's no loud sound to force it down, the compressor's opening up and allowing the sound through. So, cancel. We're gentle, make that a little bit more gentle.
So he finds the highest place he can and he climbs. And he climbs.
So now by changing that angle slightly, the compression ratio in the knee is a lot softer, so we're not slamming it as hard. And also we've increased the amplitude of the threshold so that actually we're now not starting as soon.
Well, for some reason, he finds himself by the sea. Yeah, okay. He climbs up the mast of an old wooden boat.
Hey, Oliver! What are you doing up there?
We can make it slightly more gentle.
I just can't do it anymore. Our hero's name is Oliver. Oliver Kimball. He's a genius, a prodigy, a maths whiz kid. A-levels, we're 10, degree by 14, masters by 50. I've had enough.
Okay, so there we are. What we've actually done now, we've got a nice soft knee, nice soft ratio, and we've worked out roughly what volume we need to start working at. So we're now starting to compress at the right time. We're not compressing all the time, we're only compressing the peaks. And what we've done there is to just take the top end off, so we've not got that really staccato nature of the loud sounds coming through. But also we've actually brought the quieter sounds out of the mix slightly. And in a minute you'll see that all of these peaks will be reduced, then we can apply some amplitude to it and make the whole mix louder again so that it sits on the tape better, and our signal to noise ratio on our outputs will be better. So let's just listen to that for a couple of minutes more.
Maths whiz kid. A-levels, we're 10, degree by 14, masters by 50.
And now it's much more comfortable to listen to.
I just can't take it anymore.
Because those stabbing voices aren't in your ear anymore, they're not really biting you, they're much gentler. So we're happy with that. So we'll add a preset, and again we'll call it risky. Okay, so now see how it's shrunk, how much we've applied compression to that, and it's now very, very quiet on the tape. So we now need to go back into amplitude and amplify that signal. We'll put 10 decibels on it. Boom. Okay, so now it looks a little bit healthier on the tape.
Our hero's name is Oliver. Oliver Kimball. He's a genius.
Now there's the odd sound that peaks out, like this, that pop there, if we go back to there.
He's a genius.
Hear that one? So we have to decide then if that's going to be too much for us, that pop, and if we want to treat that independently. We can treat that independently by zooming in, by using the scroll wheel, and we can zoom right in and highlight just that bit there. It's probably a little bit much, just that pop, and then we can either apply compression to it using the amplitude effect dynamics processing, like we did, and we can spend ages messing about with that. Or actually what we can do is to effects, amplitude, amplify and fade, and we can just put a 3 dB cut on it. So we're actually just going to turn the volume down with that little bit, which brings it in and stops it from topping over, and then we can have a listen to it. So now it's not as loud. We've essentially done the same thing. We don't need to apply compression to it because it's just a pop. You know, it's not going to affect any of the rest of the show. The background noise isn't noticeable for that fraction of a second, and we can actually get away with doing. What we've essentially done is to compress it manually by turning the volume down. So now if we go back to the entire piece, like that.
Our hero's name is Oliver.
It now sits in there quite happily, and you don't even notice that we've turned it down. There's another one over here, so you'd want to treat that one independently. So now we've actually tidied this piece up, and we're starting to sound like an actual studio soundtrack. Okay, there's a lot of foot noise and stuff. It's a live recording. There's always going to be. When you apply compression, it can change the equalization a little bit. So sometimes it can be nice to put a second layer of equalization over the top once we've done the first. But for what we're actually trying to achieve, I think we've done quite well there. Okay, so we've done that for a 50-second section, and that's now completely useless to us, really. But what we can do, if we go back to the Academy and Risk edit, which was our first video, he says Academy and Risk. There we go, like that. The first thing we did, we have to now remember what we'd done. We should have written a list. It's probably worth having a notepad and write down what you did. Amplify and fade, 3 dB cut. Okay. So see how long it takes now. If we'd been doing this with all of the different effects, if we'd spent a day working on this, polishing every single section of it, we would be absolutely fed up when we're waiting for this to do this job. Which is why we work on that 50-second section. So we just get that piece sounding nice, and then we assume that it's all going to sound beautiful after that. So then we're going to, the next thing we did was to apply our filters. So we go to our graphic equalizer, and we apply risky. And again, that takes 30-odd seconds to process. Whilst this is processing, obviously there's going to be more pops. There's more of them. And there's going to be more sections of noise and sections of silence that we're going to have to deal with. So we'll go through and fix those as we get through. Boom. So that was the next thing we did. The next thing we did was to apply the compression. So we'll apply the compression. He says amplitude, dynamics processing, risky, apply. Another 30 seconds. It's easier to work with that 50-second section. For years, I used to edit entire shows, and it just takes all day because every time you change your mind and click undo, it takes you 30 seconds to go back and undo it. So that's nearly done. And the last thing we did was to apply a boost. Now, can anyone remember? Did I apply 10 dB to that? I think I did. So 10 dB boost, okay. Let's see if that's enough or too much. Okay. So we've over-egged the compression a little bit. I am rushing whilst I'm teaching. The compression's a little bit too harsh. Because it's too harsh, we've actually got a little bit too much bass boost on there. It's brought the lower mids in a little bit too much. We can sort that out.